Hi there. Welcome to another little mini episode of MacGyver's Workshop. Today I'm going to work on what is a common problem with many of your older Ford products with regards to the gear shifter. And now I've seen a couple of videos on YouTube that go over how to fix this, but I'm going to do one here as well in detail and show you how to fix it. Now I'm actually lucky enough, if you care to call it that, to where I have two vehicles. I have one with the problem manifesting itself with a sloppy gear shift, and the other that is where it actually has come apart. And I'll explain more about that later, but let's get in the car here and let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's our backup car, which is a relatively nice 1996 Mercury Grand Marquis. And let me get in here and show you what the problem is. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do my best to describe this here. And yes, I know it has a check engine light. That's the annoying catalyst efficiency code. But the purpose of today's video here is that we sit here and go and move the gear shift from park to reverse. It jumps all the way to neutral. Okay, and it kind of has a bit of slack to it, and you always have to go back up to get it into reverse. And it just feels loose and wonky. Okay, so, and then you have to really be careful. It just feels like crap is what it is. So, and so we're going to fix that and go into explaining as to why it's a problem and how it happens and all that good stuff. And in order to do that, we're going to have to I'm going to try to do it without lowering the steering column, but I'm almost positive I may have to, but to at least lower it down. And of course we'll have to be careful with the airbag on this one. So anyway, we'll get along here, and I'll take you over to my Ford truck and show you what happens when you leave this to go too long, and see what happens there. Okay, now here is my 1995 F250, and it's a predecessor of the Super Duty. They didn't call it a Super Duty yet, but it's got the big Power Stroke diesel in it. And let me see what I can show you in here as best I can. Alright, now what's happening with this one is, look at all that free play in there. And now we have, now you can force it. That's neutral and drive. That's all we get. So what you have basically in there is, down at the end of the column you have a bracket with two bolts in it, and one of those bolts backs out. And when it backs out, that's your warning when it gets loose. And then when it finally breaks, this is what you end up, or pops out, this is what you end up with. So we're going to fix all that today, so stay tuned and we'll carry on here. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we want to start by taking out this screw here and this screw here. Now I use I just use a 7mm socket, but you can also use a Torx. That's like a T15 Torx or something like that, but I just use that. Okay, then mine's going to be a little complicated because I have my my trailer brake controller mounted in here with the wires run through a hole, so I'm going to have to get a little creative with that to get the rest of this out. Okay, another couple little tricky bits here. You've got your headlight knob, which is going to prevent this from coming off. So what you have to do is you have to get something real slim in there and push that little tab back, and then finagle with it, and then the knob will come off of the shaft there. And then just push the headlight switch back in so it doesn't aggravate you. And helpful, handy little MacGyver hint here, so you don't break your dashboard, is, depending on your truck, your trim may be different, but in this one you've got this little piece right here that pops in there, and you got one more screw right there. All the rest of this is all popped in with spring clips, but you don't want to break your dashboard by not knowing that that's there. So we'll need to get this off, because I'm almost positive there's a screw hiding behind there for this bottom bit. So let's get that out of there and see what we've got. Sure is nice being ambidextrous. I keep all my screws down there together on the floor, and then it all pops off just like so. And of course you'll have wires back there for all your indicator lights here, and the fuel tank selector if you happen to have dual tanks like I have. So let me put the camera down and get this all out of here, and we'll see what we got. Okay, so as I said a minute ago about popping that little trim piece out and moving that screw out, see this bit right here? Well, there's one on both sides. So now somebody before me had the pleasure of breaking that, but for the most part all the rest of the spring clips hold it in pretty good, and you know, quiet ride is not a trait of this truck, so I'm not losing too much sleep over it. But what this does now is, now that I've got this bottom piece off, it just pops in with spring clips. I probably could have got that off without doing anything to the without having to take that top bit off, but since I haven't been in this for a while, been into this dashboard, it probably won't hurt to have a good look at it. Plus I have some work to do over there on the temperature control too, for the winter time, but that's another story. So let's get in here and find out what's going on with this gear shifter, shall we? Okay, hey, one of my customers popped by. That's the BMW I put the front suspension bushings in a while back, and she said after she got it aligned, she heard a popping sound once or twice and brought it over. We took a quick peek at it, nothing major, so she's tottering off on to do her thing. Now anyway, back to this. We've got to what we're going to have to do is lower this steering column down out of the way so we can get to where we can see everything for the shifter cable and so forth. So there's a couple of big bolts up there we're going to have to get out and let that column drop down. So we'll do that, and when I get them out of here, I'll show you what we're dealing with here. See if I can maybe get you a better view of those bolts. There's one right there. It's got to come out, and another one there, and there's a couple more. There's one there, and there's one there as well. So anyway, let's get all that out of there and see what we got. Okay, now before you take that last bolt out of the steering column and drop it down out of there, there's one thing you want to be careful about, and that's the shift quadrant indicator. That's the little dammit that goes back and forth across here. It has a little tiny cable, easily breakable, that'll go down underneath the column and comes up. Let's see if I can get in here with the camera, and maybe I can get a better angle on it here. Comes up here and then comes down. You need to disconnect that, because as you drop the cable down, it's going to pull that or drop the column down, it's going to pull that cable tight and snap it out of the instrument cluster. So that'll save you a little headache. So let me work on that, and then when I get it out, we'll show you what we got. Okay, now you may think that you can take that screw out and pop this whole black plastic piece off of here, but you're not going to be able to, because there's a rivet in there that holds it in. So you're going to have to unscrew the little adjustment knob all the way and unscrew and pull that cable out. That's going to be about the only way you want to do that. So just a little FYI there. Okay, so it looks like I can't be that lucky. Normally, what I was talking about in the beginning of my video is, if I can get this thing to focus, is there's a bracket on the end of the shaft here, and I don't know if I can get it visual enough here. Let me see. You'll see the one screw right there, and then there's another screw down at the bottom, and what happens is that this top one or the bottom one backs out and falls out. Now that's an easy fix. Now in my case, I'm thinking my problem's going to be a little more complicated, because if you will look at this, as I move the gear shift up and down, you'll see the top bit of the selector shaft here turning, but the bottom bit beyond that bracket is not. So this is going to be the second major steering column repair for this truck, because my son was driving it one time, and then the little rack gear for the ignition switch plastic thing or whatever broke. We had to disassemble the whole column to get to that. But to look at this, I've got a T30 there and a T30 Torx there. So we're going to get that off and see how bad the carnage is. Okay, so what we're going to do is, since I don't want to totally remove the steering column, I think I can do everything I need without that. You have to take the plastic cover off, and in order to do that, you've got a couple of screws that go up through the bottom, of course, and then it splits like a clamshell, but you have to pull the ignition switch out to do that, because the chrome trim ring prevents the top cover from coming off. So to do that, you have to put your key in, turn the ignition on, which of course isn't going to matter because we've got the batteries disconnected, and there's a little push button underneath that you use a pin punch or a little tiny screwdriver. You press up on it, and then the whole lock cylinder comes out like that. So that takes care of that. That gets the top off, and then you'll see that there's two more T30s here, and then we can take this whole shift lever assembly off. But remember also, you got your overdrive switch, so you need to remember to pull that little wire off, because the whole stick and this whole thing will come up out of here. So that'll give us an idea of what we're dealing with. So we'll get them other two T30s out and see what we've got. Okay, so I got that other little clamshell out of there, and that's up and out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just try and remove this whole mechanism here, and then I'll have to pop the shifter cable off the end there, the bracket, but I'm going to also go ahead and remove this as well. This is the shift interlock solenoid. So there's three more T30s there, so I'm going to get those out, and then we should be able to pop the whole thing out of there and see what's going on. Okay, so now we found our problem. We expand our little bushing here, and you will see that the casting is broken right there. So it's a trip to pull apart for me. And one thing I ought to mention is that those two screws I mentioned to you about, which were the whole basis for this video in the first place, on this one are indeed actually loose. They haven't backed all the way out yet, but you can tell that by looking at the gap right there between the bracket and the end of this shaft that they're loose. So normally this video would have entailed getting to that just to tighten those two screws up, but never be the case with me. I can never be that lucky. So maybe the Mercury will be better. I think the Mercury's just got the loose bracket, but the column in the Mercury is about the same as this. So we'll get this ready to put the make a trip to pull apart, and we'll go from there. Okay, so moving along to the Mercury here, we're going to first thing you got to do is you got to pull the parking brake lever out. That's got one little 7mm screw under there. You pull that out and that exposes, it lets this bit of this plastic loose. And then there's another screw over here, 7mm again. And then the top bits are all spring clips. So that gets that out of your way. And then use your 10mm to pull this impact plate out. And then we'll be able to get to the steering column. Okay, and we got to remove, once we get that plate out of there, you got to remove this, this, and this to get this bar out, and then we can get up in there and start working on that column. Almost kind of looks familiar, don't it? Alrighty then. So, suffice it to say, with the Grand Marquis, I was actually able to get to those two screws and tighten them up without having to remove the steering column or deal with the airbag or anything like that. Suffice it to say, I'm not going to embarrass myself showing myself contorted in ungodly, imaginable positions to get under that steering column, but you can lay on your back and use, I'll show you what I used here. You got your T30 torque socket. Now I have a 1/4" drive one. It's probably what you want to use, so it'll get in there on where the bend of the bracket is. And I'd say that's about a 5" extension and a small ratchet. Now I've got a flexi head one, but that's not really a requirement. And that'll get in there and that'll tighten it up. And you saw how the truck was pretty much. Well, this one's pretty close to it, but now look at it. Now you'll see that it's very positive, and there's no free play. All the clicks are right where they need to be, and everybody will be happy. So there you have it. And I'll do another video when I get my steering column parts for pull apart. That'll be tomorrow. Got too much to do today. Grandbaby's got a birthday coming up, party tonight, and we're gonna have to head out early. I got one more thing to do on the tractor, so stay tuned, and we'll talk at you a little later. Again, as always, I appreciate you watching my little videos, and I know realize the production value isn't extremely high, but that's okay, because I'm just an average Joe doing it, holding the camera while he's working. So I believe I can still get the point across for the most part. And if you ever have any questions about any of these little jobs, you're always welcome to ask questions in the comments below, or you can email me directly at MacGyversWorkshop@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to answer your questions as quickly as possible. I do work a day job. This is just strictly a hobby for me. Truth be told, it takes me 2 to 3 times as long to do any given job when I video it. So, but it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy putting them up there for y'all to see. And a little bit of ad money I get from them, it's just kind of a little bone that helps makes it all better. So, y'all take care. Appreciate you watching. Talk to you later.